Greg Tepper, Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com at the 2024 THSCA Coaching School and Convention. It is my solemn and important duty to present the winningest coach in Vandegrift history.
Yes.
The losingest coach in Vandegrift history.
True.
The only coach in Vandegrift history. Coach Drew Sanders for his annual State of the Vipers address.
Yes.
Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Tepper.
This is now got to be we didn't have one in 2020, but probably 6 or 7 years now we've done this.
We've done it a lot.
We've done this.
It's a great tradition.
And so now I will ask you the important question. Coach Sanders, what is the state of the Vipers?
The state of the Vipers are strong.
Okay.
We had a rough end to our year last year. Of course, you know about that. We were your feature game.
My bad.
And but you know what? Hey, that's just part of it. Unfortunately, you can't have a state runs every single year. So we lost on a last-second field goal to obviously a pretty good program you may have heard of, Lake Travis, and so that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Do you guys talk about it? Is that how front of mind is the end of last season whenever you guys are going through your off-season workouts?
Yeah, it's in the front of the mind for sure, but I try to always think positively about stuff, even though that was a very negative result. And so it's just more about getting back to who we are, deep playoff runs. We won the district title, and nobody talked about that. That's still hard to win a district title. That's 6 in a row, either shared or by ourselves. And so we just talked a ton about deep playoff runs, and so that's kind of how we framed it.
And again, you say district championship, let's not forget 10-0. You know what I mean? It's not just the accomplishments from last year are obviously I would say far outweigh the detriments. With one game. However, doesn't that speak to the change in the expectation, the change in the bar, and the change in the standard there at Vandegrift over the past few years?
Yeah, and thanks for saying that. That's a great way to put it. We had the number one defense in 6A last year. We gave up 7 points a game. And we just kind of dismiss it and go, well, we lost in the first round, So we still did a lot of great things. But we understand now, like you said, the standard is for us to win the district title or compete for it, and then have a 3 or 4 or 5 round playoff trip. And that is a really high standard, and I'm really proud that that's our standard now.
Yeah, and you'd rather have that than, oh man, we're, isn't it a blessing? It's a strange thing to say, but isn't it a blessing to be man, we went 10-1. How disappointing,
I agree. Several years ago, I know you remember David Wetzel. He's now working for Baylor, right? And several years ago, I was building up Vandegrift, and he is at Reagan, right? And so he went 10-1, and I remember he was so disappointed. And I remember saying to him at coaching school, we were hanging out, and I said, "Man, I wish I could be 10-1." So I mean that's how most people think of it.
It's important, I think, to frame these things because, especially in high school football, there's so many different programs that are at different places, and the Vandegrift brand and standards are so strong that it's important to put that in the frame. Okay.
Yep.
So now 2024, we're moving on. This is a team that is going to look different. One of the great things about having great players is you get to have great players, and one of the terrible things about having great players is they have to leave.
That's right.
When you look at this 2024 roster, I'm curious where you see this team being maybe different from last year's ball club.
We're inexperienced in the offensive line, but I don't think we're not talented. We just haven't had, no snaps matter. But I'm excited about our quarterback play. We've got a young quarterback we'll be starting, a junior quarterback for the first time since Braden Buchanan. We all know how that turned out for us. And so, but I like our talent in the receiving core. We might, and this is, kind of crazy to say, we might have top to bottom one of our most talented receiving cores we've ever had at Vandegrift, which is kind of crazy to say. And then, you go on the defensive side, and we've got Deshaun Morgan, who will look really good. He'll look as good as any player that's put on a uniform for Vandegrift. Arizona State, just committed to Arizona State. I'm sure you're aware of that. And so I think we will look young in some spots, but we still have enough talent. All of our sub-varsity teams, either one district. Yeah, I think all of them one district again. And so we're excited about giving some new Vipers chances to go win.
Yeah, I'll tell you, because on the defensive side, Deshaun Morgan, I remember doing the prep work for the Vandegrift Lake Travis game for television, and I remember watching tape on him and just being like, oh, he's just an animal. Yeah. he's unbelievable.
He is. He's almost, at times, he's almost unblockable. And then you have his his line mate, Ian Witt, and he is not as physically impressive. Love you, Ian, if you're watching this, but he is just as good. He can sneak in gaps, and he's a 3-year returning starter. So we might have 2 of the best defensive linemen in the district, I believe.
The other thing about it, and I mean this is the highest of compliments, when I watch Vandegrift defense, I'm always like, man, these guys motors, like all of them. Like you are, again, any Vandegrift players watching, I mean this is a high compliment. I don't think Vandegrift is the kind of team that when they get off the bus, everyone is just like, oh man, look at them. You know what I mean? But then they get on the field and you're just like, man, they just getting after it. Like, and that has always been, to me, the mark of Vandegrift football is like, they're going to get after you, and they're going to like the motor keeps on running, especially I think on the defense.
Yeah, that's the highest compliment anybody could ever pay us, because that talent level goes up and down, and you know that, right? And that's all you do is cover teams, and you see, wow, that team's talented, that team's not. But we want to be the same level of effort at all times, and that culture, I think, is definitely permeating through our program. We call that swarm on the defensive side, but offense, we want the same thing from the snap to the whistle. And I think you actually see, when people watch us, they see that great effort.
I want to talk a little bit about realignment. Just a little bit of changes here with Hutto kind of joining the district and stuff like that. When you take a look at 25-6A, top to bottom, I guess, what are we wrong about in the magazine? Like, what do we get wrong? You picked us number 1, so I like that.
As far as the other ranking, I do agree with you. I think McNeil, my old coach, which I'm pretty biased, Coach Hermes is an amazing coach. For those that don't know, Coach Hermes coached for me for several years, was my defensive coordinator, and has done just an amazing job with McNeil. I do think you've got it right with them second. Or in the top 4, hopefully they don't clip this out and say, well, they guarantee to beat us, He's done such a good job, and so that's just an amazing turnaround what they've done.
Absolutely.
And then the other teams, I think that they all could be in the mix, and so I don't even know how you pick a top 4 out of that, because those guys, Maynard always has great talent, we're playing them again. Hutto's coming back, and they have a great running back. I think y'all featured that running back the other day. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a 9-team district, and I think every game is just going to be a lot of offense this year. I think there's a lot of good offensive players in the district.
I think you're right. Okay, I have to make sure I timestamp this too. It's Monday, July 22nd. That's important for the next question that I ask, which is tomorrow, July 23rd, is the election for the THSCA presidency.
Yes.
And you are one of 3 candidates yourself, Brent Davis and Carlos Lynn.
Yep.
How are we feeling? It will be decided by the time you guys see this, so this is a strange time capsule. But how are we feeling? Like, what's the...
I feel good. I've got some campaign managers out there working for me. My wrestling coach, Coach Muck. Shout out Coach Muck. You just got to kind of let it happen. Of course, everybody comes up to me, says, they're voting for me, but I guarantee Coach Lynn's buddies are coming up and saying the same thing. So it's just, the biggest thing is, and it'll sound trite, but it is actually true. There's some people may not know, there's 27,000 members of this organization. So to be one of the 3 that were picked to possibly be president it really is truly an honor just to have the name mentioned there. And it's a really proud thing, because I am very proud to be a coach, and I think that title coach carries a lot of weight. It did for me when I was a young man. My coaches meant the world. So that's what I look at, is I'm very honored to be one of those 3, and then whatever happens. Well,
and I rode an elevator with Brent Davis yesterday, and we had the conversation, and he brought up the point. He goes, here's the good news. No matter who wins, organization's in good hands. Like, these are 3 great guys who we know are going to serve the organization in
totally
a positive way.
Yeah, that's very nice he said that, and I say the same thing about him and Coach Lynn too. Yeah. So it is just an honor, and then hopefully, when you're watching this, that I'm the president for the next however many years that works, and if not, that's fine too.
Well, so here's the thing. That would really change the state of the Vipers address next year. I mean, we could
I need a presidential seal, maybe.
Exactly. We could get a band out here.
Yeah.
Play the fanfare.
I may have to have some social security service.
Yeah,
what do they call it?
Yeah, Secret Service. Yeah. We can make that happen.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get that done.
He's Drew Sanders, the head coach of the Vandegrift Vipers. Coach, appreciate your time as always for the State of the Vipers.
Always love it. Thanks, Rick.